Okay, I think we can start. So let's close this. So good morning, colleagues. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are connecting from. A warm welcome to this 2025 HESI Global Forum. This is actually the 10th forum that we organized, so it's some sort of anniversary, I think, for us. The theme of this year's forum is on breaking barriers in sustainable development through scientific, inclusive, and equitable solutions. The event is held as a special event to the 2025 High-Level Political Forum, which today is starting its 3-day ministerial segment. If you can please share the slides, Maria, on the screen. I have a few announcements before we get started. So you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So first, just a few housekeeping announcements. So this meeting is a Zoom meeting. It's not a webinar. So we do encourage all of you to please, of course, mute your microphone so we can reduce all the background noise if you're not speaking. And we encourage you to put on your camera. I think that would be a sort of a nice feature to see all the breadth of all the colleagues that are attending this forum. We are recording this meeting, so this is for public purpose. We will have the recording on the HESI website after the meeting. And please use the chat function for networking purpose. So any questions that you wish to direct to us in Secretariat, and also look out for any information sharing from us to you. Next slide, please. So first, this is the program. I just want to go through it quickly so you have a sense of what we're going to do in this next 2.5 hours. So we have opening remarks and then a keynote address. So that will be about 15 minutes. Then we have a very interesting and esteemed panel, multi-stakeholder discussion on higher education's role in advancing on the theme of this forum, the scientific, inclusive, and equitable solutions for sustainable development. Then we have some introduction, a launch on a HESI partnership framework. This is something that the partners of HESI has worked on pretty much since last year. This is an effort from the Secretariat and the partners to collectively try to improve the contributions from HESI members. Then we'll dive into 3 breakout sessions, and this ties very much into the priority areas of the partnership framework, so we hear more about that. We'll come back to the plenary to hear what has come out of the breakout sessions, like sort of the key takeaways and key messages. And then we have a segment of various initiatives that are related to the SDGs that are under review at this year's HLPF. And then we have a closing segment and closing remarks. So this is the program for this is what you can expect in the coming 2.5 hours. And with that, I would like to invite the first opening speaker, and a little bit change in the order. We will start with Mr. Francesc Pedro. He's the director of UNESCO's International Institute for Higher Education. And I understand we have a video recording for that. So please.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 HESI Global Forum. I'm speaking to you on behalf, certainly, of UNESCO ESL, where we co-chair HESI alongside our partners at UN DISA, UN University, and the Sulitest Association. And I have to say, looking at the participant list for today's virtual gathering, I'm truly energized by the diversity of voices joining us from every corner of the world. Whether you are a student logging from home or from your dorm room, a researcher joining from your lab, a policymaker taking time from your busy schedule, or a community leader bringing grassroots perspectives. Your presence here sends a powerful message. We all believe that higher education isn't just part of the sustainability conversation, it's at the heart of it. Now, let me be frank with you. We are at pivotal moment. 5 years. That's all we have left to achieve the sustainable development goals. And when you look at where we are today, it's well, it's complicated. Take health, for instance, SDG 3. Between 2000 and 2019, we added 5 years to healthy life expectancy globally. That's truly remarkable. But then COVID hit, and we lost nearly 2 years of that progress. It's a stark reminder that our gains are fragile. Or consider gender equality. Yes, we've seen 99 countries reform discriminatory laws in just 5 years. That's worth celebrating. But here is what keeps me up at night: women still do 2.5 times more unpaid care work than men. 2.5 times. The employment picture? Mixed at best. Global unemployment hit a record low of 5% last year. Sounds great, right? But dig deeper, and you'll find that nearly 60% of workers are still in the informal economy, especially in the least developed countries. In the region where our institute is based, those figures can be as high as 70 or 80%. Young people and women are still struggling to find decent work. And what about water? The numbers are alarming. In 2024, last year, 2.2 billion people still couldn't access safely managed drinking water. That's not a typo. 2.2 billion. As for partnerships, SDG 17, the one we all love, the financial reality is sobering. Low and middle income countries paid $1.4 trillion dollars just to service their debt in 2023. Meanwhile, we're facing a $4 trillion annual investment gap for the SDGs. And official development assistance, it actually fell by 7% after 5 years of growth. Look, these aren't just statistics. They represent real barriers that we need to acknowledge and address head on. The first barrier starts early, at least for us, way before students even reach our universities. Upper secondary completion rates are slowing down when they should be accelerating. We have 272 million children and youth out of school. Think about that: 272 million potential change makers who aren't getting the education they deserve. And here's something that really concerns me about our digital age. We often talk about technology as the great equalizer, right? Well, recent UN data shows that while 90% of people in most countries use the internet, only half of them, 57%, have the skills to use it safely. In a way, we could say that we are creating a generation that's connected but vulnerable. Look, but there is room to be optimistic as well. And why, in a way, events like today's forum matter so much. At UNESCO ESL, for instance, we've learned that breaking barriers isn't just about having the right technology or enough funding. It's about trust. It's about creating learning environments that honor diverse knowledge systems, including indigenous and local wisdom. It's about seeing students not as passive recipients, but as co creators of their own education. Let me share a story that captures this perfectly. Earlier this year, we wrapped up a pilot project with the UN Office for South South Cooperation called Greening with Science, Technology, and Innovation. Picture this: 225 young people from 10 universities across the global south working together for 16 weeks. They form teams, tackle real climate changes, and came up with 22 market-ready prototypes. Not theoretical models, actual solutions ready for implementation. Well, this is what happens when we break down barriers between disciplines, between countries, between academia and communities. This is the power of higher education unleashed. And we are seeing this momentum across the UN system. UNEP just launched their Global Plastics Hub, a data driven platform helping policymakers make evidence based decisions. UN Habitat released guidelines on digital innovation in cities. These aren't isolated initiatives, they are part of a growing movement where science, equity, and inclusion come together. That's what the UN can make really change happen. Which brings us to today. This forum isn't just another virtual meeting, it's a workspace where we'll challenge assumptions, forge new partnerships, and chart concrete paths forward. You'll hear from institutions that are redefining what university community collaboration looks like. You'll see research that's actually influencing policy. You'll meet people advancing gender equality, climate action, and digital inclusion through innovative teaching, groundbreaking research, and meaningful partnerships. And I'm particularly excited about the launch of the HESI partnership framework, which my colleague Ola Goranson will introduce shortly. This isn't just another bureaucratic structure, it's a living platform that will help us share what works, scale what matters, and ensure that solutions developed in one corner of the world can benefit communities everywhere. So, to conclude, here is my challenge to each of you. Don't just listen today, engage, question, push back. Share your successes, yes, but also your failures, because that's how we all learn. The future of sustainable development isn't something that happens to us, it's something we create together, one partnership, one innovation, one student at a time. On behalf of all of us at UNESCO ESAL and our HESI co-chairs, thank you for being here. Thank you for believing that higher education can and must be a force for transformation. Let's make these next few hours count. The clock is ticking, but together we can still make those 5 years matter. Thank you, and let's dive in.
Thank you so much, Francis, for those inspiring remarks and quite informative remarks as well. We now have Dr. Shinobu Yume Yamaguchi. I understand she might have some technical issues, so if she's on the call, then I'll be happy to introduce her. But are you with us here, Dr. Yamaguchi?
I think she has a problem with her PC now. So can we probably start with the keynote speech and then we can hopefully have her back. Yes.
Absolutely. We're very dynamic here. So we'll do a switch. I hope that's okay for our keynote speaker, which is Dr. Damian Black. He's the Chief Executive Officer and Commissioner of the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission in the Ministry of Education and Youth in Jamaica. Dr. Black, are you here with us now? We would love to hear from you now. Sorry for the short switch in the program.
Not a problem. Not a problem, Ola. Good morning, distinguished colleagues and partners. It is a privilege to address this forum under the theme, Breaking Barriers in Sustainable Development through Scientific, Inclusive, and Equitable Solutions. Today, as we navigate an era marked by polycrisis, economic instability, climate disruption, increasing violence and regional wars, displacement of populations, and widening social inequalities, we must be clear. The barriers to sustainable development are not only structural, but also systemic. Within this context and in the moment, higher education has a transformative role to play. First, science must be harnessed as a force for the integration of learning and impact. The latest reports of the United Nations Secretary General reaffirm that interdisciplinary, data-driven research is critical for crafting policy solutions through foresight tools, big data, and local knowledge. At this point, higher education institutions have no option but to dismantle academic silos by promoting collaboration across natural sciences, social sciences, and indigenous knowledge systems. Higher education institutions must seek to equip students and faculty to use these tools across fields, from public health to climate adaptation, to tackle the Sustainable Development Goals. And as Francesc just said, we note the clock is indeed ticking, 5 years away. Data without diversity will deepen divides and strengthen exploitative practices, but science, guided by a transformative, inclusive orientation, can accelerate solutions. I would also argue that inclusion is not an add-on. Inclusion is the foundation of sustainable systems. Education remains out of reach for too many globally. Young women are twice as likely to be out of school or work. Persons with disabilities, refugees, and rural populations continue to face structural exclusion from learning opportunities. Today, 1 in 5 young persons are out of education, employment, or training, with young women facing double the rates of exclusion. If we are to be intentional about breaking barriers, then our higher education systems must become more inclusive and multilingual as required, digitally accessible, and culturally grounded. Thirdly, I believe that we must forge equitable partnerships that are horizontal and not hierarchical. Meaningful breakthroughs often occur when academia joins forces with governments, industry, and civil society in genuine co-creation. This is particularly so when we consider the sustainability agenda. South-South and triangular cooperation can democratize innovation by supporting open access infrastructure, joint research hubs, and context-specific policy tools. Equity is not only the provision of access, it is also the shared collaborative authorship of solutions. I would also argue that students, educators, and researchers must be recognized as drivers and not merely bystanders of sustainable development. They are not only knowledge recipients, they are advocates, innovators, and frontline responders. From climate action to gender equality, from local governance to public health, higher education communities are shaping the futures from the ground up. Our role is to support them, not only with funding, but with freedom, not only with platforms, but with power. Finally, this forum launches a new era of coordinated ambition through the HESI Partnership Framework. This is more than a declaration, it is a design for action. We must use it to create structural avenues for shared learning, accountability, and scaling what works. Together, we can strengthen the coherence, visibility, and impact of higher education's contribution to the Sustainability Development Goals. Colleagues, breaking barriers requires more than rhetoric. It demands systems that are open, science that is ethical, and governance systems and leadership that are humble. Let us educate not just for employment, but for empowerment. Let us research not only to understand, but to transform. And let us ensure that sustainable development is not just a goal, but a lived reality for every community, for every person, everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Black, for these very inspiring remarks and very supportive and timely information shared through your statement. I'm now informed that our colleague from UNU, Dr. Shinobi Yume Yamaguchi, has successfully joined. I'd like to hand over the floor to her for her opening remarks.
And thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And distinguished colleagues, esteemed partners, and friends from around the world, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. It is my great honor to welcome you all to the 2025 HESI Global Forum, held in conjunction with the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development. Wherever you are joining us from, government, the civil society, academia, the private sector, the educators and students, thank you for being here. Your presence today reflects the commitment to building a more sustainable, inclusive, and just the future. And this year's theme, Breaking Barriers in Sustainable Development Through Scientific, Inclusive, and Equitable Solutions, mirrors both the challenges and the invitation. It is a challenge from disparities in access to quality education to geographic balancing in the sustainability research and to biases on AI systems. These barriers, they continue to hold the global progress, but it is also an invitation. An invitation to reimagine systems that no longer service us and accelerate our effort as we enter the final 5 years of the 2030 agenda. As you may be aware, we have less than 2,000 days until the day that we have been committed to achieve the different development goals in synergy with each other by the end of 2030. Let me ask you these questions. How would you feel knowing that the percentage of the young people completing upper secondary school has only increased by 7% between 2015 and 2024, from 53% in 2015 to 60% in 2024? How would you feel knowing that our education system remains severely underfunded and learning outcomes are in decline in many regions? And how would you feel that 1 in 5 young people is neither in employment, education, nor the training, and also that the women are twice as likely to be excluded from the labor force than men? These are not the abstract figures. They are a stark reminder of the urgency that we face. These figures were derived from the latest SDG progress report, which also states that only 47% of the SDG target are on track, while 18% show the regressions. Colleagues, partners, and the friends, how would you feel? Well, yes, we made the incredible progress in other areas, but this latest report reaffirms that time is running out and we need to intensify our effort wherever you are located. But today's forum is an invitation to chart a path forward. Higher education institutions have a unique and powerful role to play in reversing this trend. Through teaching, researching, and engaging, the university can generate the knowledge, cultivate the skills, and foster the partnership needed to drive the systemic change. But to do so effectively, we must confront the barriers that persist within our own sector. Today's forum will explore how to make sustainability education more inclusive. We will examine how to integrate traditional and indigenous knowledge into scientific discourse, both in teaching and learning. We will discuss the role of artificial intelligence and emerging technology in enhancing the sustainability research. We will hear from educators, innovators, and young leaders who are pushing boundaries and reimagining the role of higher education, ensuring that no learner is left behind. As co-chair of HESI, the United Nations University is proud to stand along the UNDESA, UNESCO, and Solitest, the association, in advancing the sustainable development in higher education. At the United Nations University Institute for the Advanced Study of Sustainability, we are committed to fostering the policy-relevant research and capacity development that empower the communities and influence the global and regional decision-making. As the director of the Institute, I am very much proud of the work of our HESI Action Group on the futures of higher education and AI, co-led by the UNU and the UNESCO ISALEC. In just 1 year, we have produced a series of knowledge-sharing activities that examined the evolving relationship between higher education, artificial intelligence, and the sustainability. We wouldn't be able to do so without the help of our partners from all over the world. And today's forum presents an opportunity to deepen our global and regional partnership. So, as an invitation, I urge you to use today's forum not just to share your ideas, but to build the connections. Listen carefully, listen deeply, and to think boldly, and above all, act collaboratively. Because the challenges before us are very complex, but so too is the strength of our partnership, of our global community. Thank you very much again for being here, everyone. Please enjoy the workshop and this forum, and thank you for your commitment. Let us break the barriers together for the future that is more sustainable, inclusive, and equitable for all of us in this planet. Thank you very much, and back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yamaguchi. It's great to see you, and thanks for those very uplifting remarks. Happy that you could finally join. So now thank you. So now I will hand over to Ms. Jongwee Park, also from UNU. She's the moderator of the multi-stakeholder panel discussion. And if you can please, because we're running a little bit over time already, so I'll probably ask everyone each session to try to tighten the timing with about 5 minutes. That would be great. So without further ado, over to you, Ms. Park. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ola. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much for joining the panel discussion session on multi-stakeholder perspective on higher education's role in advancing scientific, inclusive, and equitable solutions for sustainable development. My name is Jong-hee Park, as introduced, from United Nations University Institute for the Advanced Study of Sustainability. And I'm really honored to moderate the first session of the HESI Global Forum 2025 on behalf of the HESI co-chairs, UNDESA, UNESCO-ALSAC, and Solitest. As the session title tells, this session is to reflect diverse views and voices on how inclusive or exclusive higher education sector is to advance SDGs from their respective sectors' perspective. I'm really excited to share that we have really great panelists from diverse sectors today, representing indigenous group, student body, persons with disabilities, university faculty and scholars, and international organizations. The panel discussion session flow is as follows. We'll start with the 3-minute opening statement from all the panelists on what barriers each of them sees in the higher education sector towards inclusive and equitable opportunities for all. After we hear their opening statement, we will move on to a more interactive discussion among the panelists. And at the end of the session, I don't know if we have time with these constraints, but I hope we have some time left for Q&A with the audience. So for that, please leave your questions or comments on the chat box, and we will try to address those questions as much as possible at the end. Okay, so let us begin with the opening statement segment with Ms. Asma Federico. Let me introduce first Ms. Asma. Asma is a student and youth leader from Malaysia, currently pursuing a master's study in the University of Tartu, Estonia, and she is an active youth leader in the Wikimedia Malaysia and Estonia. And she's leading the digitization of indigenous language and artifacts across Wikimedia projects. So she is today representing both indigenous people and also youth. So Asma, can you tell us what barriers you see in the higher education sector towards inclusive and equitable opportunities of all from your perspective as an indigenous person and also youth? Please.
Hi, thank you so much, Jong-hee, for the introduction. Good day, everyone. I want to thank you first for giving me the opportunity to share my experience in today's forum. So from my perspective, as someone who's deeply involved in the Wikimedia movement and actively working with marginalized communities and indigenous groups in Malaysia, one of the most persistent barriers to inclusive and equitable education lies in the language access. So in many higher education institutions in Malaysia, for example, the dominant language of instruction is often English or the national language, such as Bahasa Malaysia. While for us, this may seem standard or neutral on the surface, right? In practice, it creates a systemic form of exclusion for students who are less fluent or come from non-dominant linguistic backgrounds. For indigenous students in particular, this presents a profound challenge where many of them come from the communities where their native languages are central to their identity and everyday life. And then when they enter university or school, they are often forced to learn a complex academic concept in a language that isn't their first or even their second language. For example, the course materials, official documents, emails, lectures, group discussions, and even campus-wide announcements are rarely, if ever, translated. And these indigenous students are essentially expected to catch up or adapt, often without the institutional support that are necessary for them to thrive. And this language gap just doesn't just impact their academic performance. It can also affect their mental health, their confidence, and the sense of belonging in an environment. And many students that I have worked with describe the feeling of out of place, being out of place because they are afraid to ask questions in class or ashamed of their limited fluency in the language. And some even withdraw from group participation entirely, which in turn affects their grades, their relationship with their peers, or the faculty even. And when we are looking into it, this is actually a quiet exclusion, one that is not really noticeable, but it really deeply affects the retention and success of the indigenous students in higher education. And one other thing that I would like to mention is the digital inequality. This is where we often come into, because in institution, we often assume that all students have the same access to technology, but that's simply not true. Especially for marginalized or indigenous communities. There are students that come from various backgrounds, such as rural areas, low-income households, or displaced communities that are often lacked access to stable internet or proper devices, for example. And some are still relying on shared mobile data, slow Wi-Fi connection, and even low-end phones to attend their classes properly, and even to complete some assignments in their part. So therefore, this lack access doesn't just limit their ability to consume information, it also limits their ability to participate, to collaborate, and to create. And in Malaysia, we are becoming more tech savvy, especially in the academic environments. And this digital divide becomes a knowledge divide, because this is where most of the vulnerable students, such as these indigenous communities, have the risk of being left behind, not because they aren't capable, it's just because they are not equipped. And that is my perspective in this part. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Asma, for sharing those powerful experiences, insights of your experiences, and also being on time. Great, thank you so much. We are moving on to our next panelist, Miss Patricia Ziziti. Patricia is co-president of Oikos International, a network of student leaders in sustainability. Her work focuses on education transformation through youth leadership competencies development and creating experimental spaces for reimagining the way we learn, lead, and live. So without further ado, Patrizia, the floor is yours. Same question.
Great. Hello, everybody. I was actually coming in today with my mind completely empty, and I was like thinking, what am I going to say? But then I talked with my colleagues, and we have this phrase that we say to one another all the time. We are like, better be present than prepared. So I'm here being present, and I was listening to all the keynote speeches. And I'm really, really looking forward to the launch of HESI Partnerships Framework, because what I believe and what our organization advocates for the most is the partnerships and collaboration. And when we're talking about the barriers that we have towards achieving inclusive and equitable higher education, I would say collaboration is one of those. And I will just track back just a little bit. A year ago, I was working on a project and I was interviewing some people. And I met a friend who now has a consulting company. And I asked him, how did it all start? My background is in entrepreneurship, so I was just wondering, how did you start your company? And he said that he once was reviewing things on sustainability. He's very interested in sustainability. And he mentioned that he found this thing called Project Drawdown. It's a list of 100 solutions for sustainable development that already exists. And he ran a test where he put all those solutions in one place, and we could technically, potentially, well, theoretically, solve all the problems that we have in sustainable development by implementing those solutions globally across borders, across nations, in all the local contexts. And what he said that is missing to implement those solutions is simply for people to be able to collaborate. And I believe that is right now the challenge that we are facing generally when it comes to any SDG, any sustainability challenge that we have, is the lack of collaborative skills. And that is something that if we manage to break through, we most probably would achieve those SDGs until the 2030.
Great. Thank you very much, Patricia, for your insights on our lack of collaboration skill as the key barriers for this sustainable development. And again, thank you for being on time. So my next panelist is Mr. Joao Papel. Papel is a postdoctoral fellow at Tokai University and vice chair of IEEE Consumer Technology Society for Healthcare and Wellbeing. And his work focuses on leveraging AI and IoT to make education more inclusive and accessible to everyone, drawing from his lived experience growing up in rural Mozambique and navigating learning and education with visual impairment and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So we have Papel here. Papel, can we hear from you what barriers you experienced in the higher education sector, please?
Okay, thank you, Jongwing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. I speak today to you from the heart of Africa. As Jongwing said, I come from a rural village in Mozambique, a place with over 15,000 people, with just 4 primary schools, 1 secondary school, and no higher education institution in sight. It's the kind of place where dreams often arrive late, and too often they never arrive at all. I've seen how language, geography, disability, and digital exclusion keep communities locked outside of education. I carry that with me as a researcher and as someone living with disabilities. So when I speak about inclusion, I don't speak from theory. I speak from experience, from someone who, like many others, has felt what it feels like to be left to survive and not to thrive. So one of the greatest barriers I see in higher education is the assumption that all students can read English, the assumption that all students can sit still and focus for long periods, the assumption that all students process information the same way. But students are like people. They are diverse. So unless education starts to reflect that, we'll keep excluding the many while educating the few. Access to knowledge is another quiet gatekeeper in education. The UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report tells us that 92% of the open education resources is in English, yet only 5% of the world speaks it natively. So I ask, who is this knowledge really for, if not for the world? For me, education is not a charity, it is a right. Or as Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. For that, we have the SDGs to remind us. We have SDG 4 that calls for inclusive and quality education. We have SDG 10 that compels us to reduce inequalities. We have SDG 17 that urges deep partnership. In this room, we have the minds and the hearts to make that change. So let's ensure our education systems and AI systems reflect those values. Like Dr. Yamaguchi said early during her intervention, let's make sure that no one is left behind. So let's stop doing research on underserved communities and people with disabilities and start doing research with them. Let's ask them, let's hear them, let's learn from them, and let's implement with them. Because only when we co-create education, we'll unlock its true power for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Papel, for another powerful statement. It really resonates what Asma also mentioned about this English as over assumption. Everybody is fluent in English, and then, English is the main language, but it's not actually for many people. So it's very great segue to our next panelists, who are the university professors. So we would like to listen to Professor Michael Phillip, who is the UNESCO chair on Tibet and sustainable development and at the University of Doha for science technology. He has published more than 120 papers, including being editor of 2 open access conference books related to sustainability, and has participated in government consultancies, advisory boards, and collaborative research projects linked to the SDGs. So we really want to hear from you what you have to say as a university professor to all these barriers that they were mentioning as students and researchers. Please, Michael.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Johnny, for your introduction, for my invitation to contribute to this important plenary session. Well, I was just thinking, and what Patricia said about being present, being important, listening to Commissioner Damien Black, Director Frederick Pedro, and then Director Dr. Yamaguchi. They've said most of the things that I had put together, because achieving truly inclusive, equitable higher education faces significant interconnected barriers: financial, structural, cultural, and importantly, systemic factors, highlighted again by Commissioner Black. Rising tuition costs, living expenses, financial aid often doesn't cover these actual costs. Transportation, childcare, specialized equipment, disabilities add layers of exclusion. Affordable
Tiene un
childcare.
curso de inteligencia artificial y quiero ver cómo funciona el AI Companion.
Sorry?
Sorry, can you mute your microphone, please, if you are not speaking? Thank you. Sorry, Michael.
Oh, I thought I'd done something wrong. Okay, sorry. Again, these barriers again link to why perhaps the number of females in education fall off and also don't continue in higher education. There's also, as identified by Pavel, students from under-resourced schools often enter with gaps in preparation, while heuristic reviews can be subjective and influenced. First-generation students, limited access to quality institutions in rural and certain urban areas, the digital divide, which has been highlighted before, inflexible program structures, lack of part-time options, insufficient online offering, and it's difficult for working adults, caregivers, and non-traditional students to participate. So addressing these barriers requires a sustained, multifaceted approach, increasing public funding, moving beyond over-reliance on standardized tests, inclusive curriculum design, offering more evening and weekend classes, and importantly, establishing K-12 pipeline partnerships with schools to improve college readiness in underserved community. So from a higher education institution perspective, systemic barriers hinder progress towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. Challenges intersect with SDG 3 health, SDG 5 gender, SDG 8 work, SDG 14 oceans, and SDG 17 partnerships, which, if we leverage strategically, could help dismantle these obstacles. For example, SDG 8 and 17 to redistribute resources, SDG 5 and 14 to centre marginalised voices, and decolonising knowledge with SDG 3 and 17. So, achieving diversity, equity, and inclusion, in conclusion, requires continuous commitment at all levels. How many discoveries have not been made simply because talented, marginalised individuals did not have access to HE? What about future challenges? We are going to need every individual. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to hear from also a professor, Michael, that we really have to mobilize everyone in the society to achieve this SDG. So it's really good to hear that. My last panelist, not least, is Miss Yuma Inzolia. Yuma is the Director of Capacity Development of UNESCO ILSA, where she leads the Transformative Learning Initiative in advancing the 2030 Agenda and sustainability in higher education. Her work focuses on empowering institutions to embed sustainable development into her core missions through innovation, collaboration, and inclusive approaches. So she's going to speak from the international organization perspective on the barriers of higher education and how we can actually deal with it. Yuma, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Yogi. Thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to speak from UNESCO ISALC. It is a truly honor to be part of this global forum and this vital conversation. I think that we all agree that today, more than ever, we need to come together to reaffirm the transformative role of higher education in advancing inclusive, equitable, and sustainable development is crucial. And this forum provides a powerful space to do just that. I would like to start my intervention by stressing that from UNESCO perspective, for example, we firmly believe that higher education is a human right. It's not a privilege. But unfortunately, that right is still denied to many. And if we want to talk honestly about inclusion, we must recognize both the visible and the invisible barriers that continue to hold people back. I think that we can start with the first barrier, that is the persistent belief that access alone is enough, but it's not. Many students, especially migrants, women, indigenous people, people with disabilities, and those in poverty may get into the university but struggle to stay, to succeed, and to graduate. A report, Inclusion in Higher Education from Commitment to Action, shows how few institutions have strong support systems for retention, well-being, and financial aid. But let's be clear, access without retention, it's not equity, it's abandonment. Another major barrier lies in the curriculum itself. Too often, it reflects only dominant Western urban perspective. But where are the voices of indigenous people or migrants, of local communities? Their knowledge is not a footnote. It is essential to sustainability and deep transformation. Therefore, we must rethink what we teach and how we teach it, as well about research, language publication, as Asma mentioned. Language is a knowledge divided also. And that starts with investing in teacher training to build inclusively and culturally responsive classroom and transformative pedagogies to support it. Because we all agree that teachers are the bridge between intention and the impact. So I would like to move forward a little bit to the next barrier. I think that today's word connectivity, it's a right and not a luxury, but digital exclusion continues to widen the gap. Students and teachers without devices, infrastructure, or digital literacy are being left behind. And now AI systems used in admissions and assessment are raising new ethical concerns. Therefore, if we are not carefully, technology will reproduce the same biases that we have spent decades trying to dismantle. Another barrier is that governance remains centralized and disconnected from those most affected by exclusion. Students, displaced people, indigenous leaders, local communities' voices must be at the table. We understand that inclusion is not only about who learns, it's about who decides. So true transformation requires democratizing decision-making in higher education institutions. And finally, I think that we must confront the rising normalization of xenophobic, racist, and misogynistic discourse, often fueled by extremist political movements. This narrative attacks migrants, denies gender rights, and rejects scientific knowledge. And they are infiltrating our campuses and influencing policy. So we must defend higher education as a space of truth, dignity, and human rights. I think that we all agree that those are some barriers, but I think that we should move a little bit forward, encourage to change what's matter, no? And that is that we should encourage to protect the right to learn, to belong, and to shape a better world together. Thank you very much. Back to you, Yonghui.
Thank you very much, Yuma, for addressing the entire, like a very holistic barriers, holistic perspectives on the barriers, different barriers. So thank you very much for that. We are moving on to the second segment of this panel discussion, which we will have respective questions for each panelist, not the common questions anymore. So I will start with Michael this time. Michael, I have a question for you. What steps can higher education institutions take to ensure that research on sustainability is more globally representative, not just, Western-centric, and also inclusive? What would be the steps that you think?
Thank you again, John. I think I got 2 minutes for this one. So anyway, for it to be more globally representative and inclusive. Well, we've already started and heard about decolonizing the sustainability research agenda and integrating Indigenous people, Global South and non-Western dimensions. We have to get the mental picture of parachute research and ensure collaborations with Global South researchers are co-created and not extractive. Allocate grants to ensure low-income countries lead projects and not just serve as the fieldwork hosts. Ensure inclusive funding and resource access, support support low-cost publishing and open access, and importantly, provide cloud labs, open data sets, and digital tools to reduce resource disparities. And again, UNESCO and open access, open education resources are working towards this. Diversify scholarly communication and dissemination by publishing in languages beyond English. Again, what we've been mentioning, and simplify visa procedures for movement and involve local communities from the outset, not just data collector, and have clear protocols for intellectual property rights. That's they keep their knowledge. So, in curriculum and inclusive research include non-Western ways of knowing and facilitate bi-directional learning, global south to global north and vice versa. So in conclusion, for sustainability research to be truly global, HEIs must move beyond token inclusion and actively dismantle systemic inequalities in funding, authorship, and knowledge validation. This requires structural reforms, ethical partnerships, and a redefinition of what rigorous research looks like. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Micah. I like your note on tokening inclusion. Yeah, we should avoid tokening inclusion and doing the real, true inclusion of research. So I'm moving on to Patrizia now. As the youth representative, also the president of a student body, what do you think the youth demand to ensure that sustainability is embedded in higher education curriculum?
Yes, thank you for the question. I like how you phrased it, what does youth demand? And to be honest, youth demands youth representation. That if you ask any youth in all the different networks that we take place in, youth is asking for youth representation. However, I'll be a little bit critical on the youth that I'm also representing right now. And I will say, unfortunately, by the time that universities get that youth into the universities, that youth is already affected by the system that they have been educated in for at least 10 years prior to their entrance to the university. So what the universities have to do mainly is that they need to also teach that youth how to unlearn things to start with, to be able to help universities to embed that sustainability into the curriculum. But the main thing that I also see a lot in the higher education institutions is that a lot of the focus is on creating sustainability as a discipline, sustainability as a separate area, and it has to be embedded through everything that we do. It has to be a lens. I get asked constantly by the youth, and actually not even by the youth, but also by the higher education representatives of what would you advise to the students if they want to pursue their career in sustainability? And my advice is not to pursue the career in sustainability. My advice is to pursue the passions, what they're passionate about, and to think outside the box of how can that certain discipline, that certain role, or that area of expertise that they're working on can be sustainable, right? And for that to happen, there has to be two things in the higher education: is competency building in the youth, where they can actually have creative courage, where they can think outside of the box, where they're able to understand what their purpose is. And on the other side, it has to be youth involvement in building those directions for the sustainability to happen in all the sectors across the higher education and beyond. Yes. Thank you. Back to you, Youngbi.
Thank you very much, Patricia, for your intervention. I really like your saying the youth already have to unlearn what they have learned from their school when they enter the university. So from the youth perspective, it's really it's interesting to hear that, actually. So thank you very much for that. Asma. Yeah, so I'm moving on to you now. Can you provide examples of successful partnership between academia and local community, synergizing their strengths of both parties and complementing their roles towards sustainable development, especially to link your indigenous communities with higher education institutions and ensure they have equal opportunities? Can you give us an answer? Yes.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Yeah, yes, absolutely. So one of the strongest example that I can give comes from the initiative by the Wikimedia Community User Group in Malaysia, where we work with local universities, NGOs, and indigenous groups, where we collaborate to document and preserve words from their native languages and also the artifacts from their cultural background and knowledge, especially now that we are working with different indigenous groups from two parts of Malaysia, which is Orang Asli, that's more in West Malaysia, and then Orang Iban and Kadazan Dusun communities, which are more central to the East Malaysian part. I would like to highlight the Wikikata initiatives, which won the International Green Gown Award. And this project was aimed at digitizing these endangered proverbs and traditional expression from the indigenous languages. And so far, we have public university students, which I'm very proud to say that we are very youth-centric when it comes to the volunteer communities. And we have lecturers and volunteers from the Wikimedia user group working with these Orang Asli and these indigenous community from East Malaysia, which are from various age group, where we collect and translate these words into both Malay and English, which are the normal communication language that we use in Malaysia. And then these results we then publish openly into Wikimedia platforms such as Wiktionary. And in continuation with that, we also work with these communities to bring their language and knowledge to Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects. And so far, we have two indigenous languages. We have three indigenous languages that have their own Wikipedia language available openly now, and they can edit like how we normally edit English Wikipedia. And this way, we managed to help them in making this knowledge of indigenous languages freely accessible to the public and have them preserved for future generations as well, who would like to study or use these languages. And this initiative often involves collaboration with universities and our NGO, which is Wikimedia Malaysia, like I mentioned. And so far, we had a notable indigenous language researcher from National University of Malaysia and many students from the International Islamic University of Malaysia with the local indigenous-led organizations, where we have volunteers from different indigenous student clubs from these universities conducting community-based research on the documentation of daily words from the Mandrik people in Kelantan, Malaysia, for example. And these communities ended up sharing more than just their languages. They also shared very unique worldviews and their centuries-old sustainability practices. And with that, us as organization, we can document these stories and provide them platforms for visibility, and also train them on how to use these digital spaces and give them access to resources. And it was from this experience, actually, that a lot of students and researchers that we work with, they mentioned that they gained firsthand exposures to how the digital spaces fieldwork works, the ethics in the use of open source platforms and oral history collection. And us, by having provided the platforms, we also give trainings and materials that are needed for us to collect the inventory of their language in the form of words or voice recording, etc. While these indigenous communities themselves sees their languages, artifacts, and traditions being valued in the academic and digital spaces as well.
Yeah, that's really great here, Asma. I think it's really great to hear that now Wikimedia can accommodate the language. It's not even, we shouldn't say accommodating, right? It's including the language from indigenous community, and they can freely use their language in editing and uploading all this information in their own languages. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you very much for
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Now we are moving on to Papel. So now we are actually talking about your expertise is in AI and IT engineers. And so what strategy can you think of as a higher education institution can adopt to ensure that AI research are inclusive, ethical, and equitable? Papel?
Okay, thank you. Well, to ensure that AI research is truly inclusive, equitable, and ethical, higher education institutions must embed this at the foundation of the AI process and not something that will be considered later, as the Commissioner Black highlighted during his intervention earlier. So the first strategy is to build inclusive data sets. Ms. Yuma highlighted that education contents are most based on Western education. Well, that's also what's happening in AI models these days. So if we want equitable results, we need to invest in data that reflects the full spectrum of human diversity. I mean, languages, religions, and the abilities that are often overlooked. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 6 people has some type of disability. That's not a niche. That's more than over 1 billion people. So designing technology today without persons with disability isn't just an oversight. It's a systematic exclusion. So the second strategy is to open the ecosystem. Public research funds should produce open source tools. These tools should be also available for people from low resource income. Accessibility must be integrated in these systems, not as a feature, but something as the main core. Third, the higher education institutions must prioritize context-aware design. AI solutions need to work in the real world. In the real world, we have schools without connectivity, we have communities without electricity. In the real world, we have students that are blind, we have deaf students, we have students with cognitive or attention disorder. And finally, ethics. This must be part of the research culture, not a small section that we usually add to our papers. It starts with the questions we ask when we are doing research. Who is this for? Who is involved? And who is being left out? If we ask these questions early and ask them often, we'll be able to build AI systems that just don't advance in science, but the most important, they advance in justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Papel, for another very powerful statement. I almost made a checklist with your questions that you just asked to include everything. Should be, include ethical and also disability people in the ecosystem, and that's really, really great insights. Now we are moving on to Yuma. So I think it will be a great wrap up from you as an international organization. What should change and what should remain for a higher education institution to drive a more inclusive and equitable progress on the SDG by 2030 or beyond 2030? So the floor is yours, Yuma.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this relevant question. I'll do my best to respond as concretely as I can within these 2 minutes. I will start from the perspective of Latin American degree. It is clear that while higher education system in the region have made important advantage as well as in different regions around the world in recent decades, inclusion remains one of our most urgent and unfinished challenges. What must change in the fragmented and inconsistent implementation of the inclusive policies? Too often institutional strategies remain on paper, lacking continuity, coordination, and of course, commitment. And as a result, the most marginalized population, indigenous people, Afro-descendants people, persons with disabilities, gender diversity individuals, migrants as I am, continue to face structural barriers to accessing and fully participating in higher education. One of the deepest obstacles is the absence of a strong institutional culture that truly values diversity. Therefore, we need to move from inclusion as an initiative to inclusion as a core identity. This means embedding inclusion and sustainability as well into the very fabric on how universities operate in leadership, admissions, curriculum, faculty development, and of course, campus life, because we have to talk about the campus infrastructures as well. It also means creating environments where not only students, but also faculty and administrative staff feel seen, supported, and empowered. What must remain and be reinforced is the role of university as agent of social transformation, and not only as centers of knowledge, but also of builders of justice to achieve the SDGs and especially goals related to equity, lifelong learning, and inclusive society. Higher education must lead by an example. And because ultimately a university that excludes cannot educate for sustainability. That's what the main reason, I think, no? So the capacity of higher education institutions to act as inclusive space of democratic dialogue and global citizenship is essential to achieve the 2030 Agenda goals and beyond. As a matter of fact, higher education must evolve from being a gatekeeper of opportunity to becoming a gateway for transformation, and one that no one is left out of. And finally, we must strengthen, as we have been hearing during this session, South-South cooperation as a path to shared and context-relevant development. It is time to move beyond one-size-fits-all models imported from elsewhere, because our regions, Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia, hold powerful experiences and innovations that can be shared horizontally to address common challenges in ways to reflect our realities. So I think that inclusion must be seen as a systemic approach, and higher education has both the responsibility and the power to lead that transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yuma. See, I totally already knew that you can beautifully wrap up this panel discussion in a very holistic way. So with that, I think we have really good lessons from all our great panelists today. Higher education institution to become we should avoid being a gatekeeper, but we have to be a gateway to the inclusion. But also, one step forward, we have to be a leader of this inclusion, not just, gateway only, right? So we should be the leader of inclusion in the education spectrum. And so we can actually give all these insights and research findings to the basic education, secondary education, TVET, and other sectors from the higher education's perspective. So with that, I would really thank all our panelists today from diverse sectors, and I would like to hand over to our MC, Mr. Ola. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jongwei, and thank you so much to the esteemed panel. That was quite interesting, and I think it ties very well to what we're about to introduce and present to you now. So if you can kindly share the screen, Maria, I just want to do very quickly here. We're about 10 minutes over time, so I'm going to do it quite quickly and then introduce the 3 breakout sessions. So as I mentioned in the beginning, the partners of HESI, we have worked in the past year to develop what we call the HESI Partnership Framework. This has basically been the result of the HESI community being such a growing membership. We have over 1,200 universities, networks, and student organizations. And as anything grows, there's always a need to provide better structure for engagement. So we really want the focus of this framework is really to try to harness the contributions from the membership. So we're hoping we can turn sort of the members that are more of a participant to more of a contributor moving forward. So the objectives is really to gather insight, highlight innovations, and strengthen partnership and inform policies around higher education for sustainable development. We have decided to, at least initially, to focus on 3 key areas, which is on teaching and learning, research and innovation, and partnership engagement with different sectors from higher education lens. So you can, the whole document of this partnership framework is now available on the HESI website, scds.un.org/HESI. So you can take a look at that when you have a moment. And also to please keep an eye, this is a start. So please keep an eye on the announcement from the Secretariat moving forward. So we'll roll out some of these activities around these 3 focus areas in the fall, basically. So to kickstart or bring these areas to life, we invite you now to join one of the 3 breakout sessions. So these are around these 3 areas. So I will now create 3 breakout groups, and you choose which one you feel most interested in. So just 1 is teaching and learning, 2 research and innovation, and 3 on the partnership and engagement. And we have 3. We have a facilitator for each of these sessions. So I'll let them, to save time, I'll let them introduce themselves within the breakout sessions. But they will basically walk you through some of the topics and the focus of these areas, and have sort of an interactive sessions with a few respondents and speakers. So yeah, now I'm going to create this breakout rooms. 1 second. And I also invite, please, if you can keep this, since we're running a little bit over time, so please keep to 25 minutes. We'll see you back in 25 minutes. Are you able to join the rooms?
I'm not
No,
seeing
I haven't
yet.
seen the rooms popping up.
Can you back up on how to
next
get to the breakout groups? That would be helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let me close them and redo this. 1 second.
I'm not in a group yet. How do it? I'm not yet in a group.
Now you should be seeing on the screen to be able to join one of the 3 groups.
I should be seen on the screen. It's just the environment where I am. That's why.
There is nothing so far.
Yeah, it's not working.
Not working at all.
I also couldn't see any rooms though.
Where I
I
am.
think it is coming on. Join a breakout room.
Is it coming up?
Are you seeing it? Join the breakout room? I don't see it now.
Yes, I see some. I see that.
I see some people joining some rooms here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing
So,
it yet. You
can
guys need to
anyone
click on
that
something?
were successful tell me how you see that? Is it showing
Yes.
up?
Click
Yes.
on more.
In the very last,
Okay.
in the bottom, in the very bottom bar, you will see somewhere called breakout room. You have to click on it, and then you're gonna see the 3 room numbers, and you click join.
Okay.
Join breakout room. Yes.
Yes. Great. So just to repeat, that's in the bottom of the screen, of the Zoom screen. Look for the icon breakout rooms and choose 1, 2, or 3. And please, for the moderators, to keep it to 25 minutes, since we're running a little bit over time.
I cannot see any breakout room on my platform.
Okay, I can help. If you go into the icon more, you click on the more, and then you will see breakouts group. I didn't see it, but if you go to more, you click on it, you will see breakouts, I think.
More is on the same bar where your audio and your video is, and it's a circle with 3 dots.
Yes.
So if you can click on the circle with 3 dots, then one of the things that pops up is join breakout room, and you get to choose which one.
Right.
My breakout, this is Monica, my breakout room. Oh, okay, I see it in a different place. Sorry, never mind.
I see fewer and fewer faces on the screen, which I think means that you're going to breakout room. But that's good. If you can't find this button, just call out your name, and I think I can do it for you and tell me which name. And
Dr. Roslyn.
Okay, Dr. Rose. All right.
Research innovation, please.
Dr. Roslyn. Okay, so research was
innovation.
That's
Number
number
two.
two. Yeah. So,
Hi, Ola. My name is Larry Rotimi. I want room 3, partnerships.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you.
I'm not there. I'm not anywhere. What's going on?
Dr. Rosler, for some reason it says not joined in parentheses in your. Are you on the phone maybe? Is that why? Okay, now, 1 second. Okay, that worked. Anyone else needs help? Adelina, Admaso, Kinney, Alan, Anna.
Isn't there any link that can be put on the chat room for us to click on?
No, I don't think there's a link. There's a button at the end of the screen. If you tell me your name and the room you wish to go to, I can do it for you.
I wish I could go to room number 3. Paulo Nunes.
Okay. Room number 3. Anyone else wants me to help you to put you in a room? Just call out your name. I'll do it.
Hola.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jumi.
Yeah.
Can we save the chat here? I think there are some questions that We can do actually by if you click the down.
I'm assigning people to rooms here.
Hmm?
The people that are still here.
Right.
And just randomly.
Sorry, can you please find me to room 1? My name is Ingrid.
Ingrid? Yeah.
Thank you.
Chat. Okay. Yeah, we cannot save chat messages. Zoom doesn't allow that.
Since when? It changed, right?
It's always been like that.
No, I save my chat always with my students. So it should be somewhere to save.
Yeah, maybe afterwards, after the meeting, there's the transcript part.
Maybe, yeah, because sometimes if you close the meeting Zoom, then the chat just disappears. So my rule of thumb is always to save it before I leave the room.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I cannot
I don't know.
do it.
Can you make me a co-host? Maybe I will try to explore.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thanks. I'll explore.
Richard, no, the meeting is not over, but we are in breakout groups at the moment. So I can assign you to one. There you go. Uh, Welcome back, everyone. Sorry for cutting it a little bit short. I hope everyone had an opportunity to engage and the speakers to have an opportunity to share their experiences. So now I'd like to, if I can please invite the session moderators to give us just a quick 1 minute flavor of what was discussed, any key points that you want to share that came out of the discussions, or anything else on this topic that you wish to share. That would be much welcome. So we'll do it in chronological order in session 1. So I believe that's Jerome from UNU. So please, Jerome, you have the floor. Any insights that you wish to share? Thank you.
Excuse me, is it okay if I interrupt for a second?
We're waiting for the next speaker.
Hello.
Hello, is
Is
Jerome?
it okay if I interrupt for a second?
Not at the moment. We're on a little bit tight timeline here, so we'd like to move on to the next session, which is to report on the breakout session. So you can put your question, if you have a question, put it in chat and we'll respond to that. I see Jerome is now well featured, at least on my screen. So please, Jerome, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Very embarrassing, by the way. All that. No, I'm kidding. But when we talk about building more inclusive higher education systems, it starts with recognizing the value of both traditional and scientific knowledge, which would involve designing culturally responsive curricula that reflect the local realities while still engaging with the global challenges. One of our speakers earlier today, Alvaro, mentioned that some of the local communities and indigenous peoples already practice sustainability without knowing the word sustainability. So I think that's very interesting. And I think that's also apparent in many communities around the world. Also, as AI tools enter our classrooms, we need strong support systems. We're talking about ethics, robust training, inclusive policies to ensure that these technologies can democratize learning without replicating the existing biases that are already embedded in them. And lastly, in terms of support systems, universities shouldn't be just users of technology, but also co-creators of tools. One of our speakers, Bileng, mentioned the power of partnership with technologists, with students, with policymakers, educators. Everyone will be using AI in the future. And we need to value the power of partnerships, because it's through partnership that we can design AI tools that truly serve diverse learners in the higher education system. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerome. So now, if I can invite Lily from UNESCO's Higher Education Institute to please
Thank you so much.
give us. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ola, and nice to see you all, colleague. From the Research and Innovation Breakout Room, we, first of all, let's say we echo with Jerome. Partnership is the key. All the three, let's say the three prototypes, tools, and cases that have been presented, no one has worked alone. There's always at least another one partner from another stakeholder status that have brought all the efforts together in moving forwards. We also want to emphasize the importance of science-based solutions being locally sourced, easily integrated, but not to compromise into, let's say, not to compromise too much, but still workable. And it needs to be context-driven in supporting of different inclusion of equity-deserving groups. Youth creativity is one of very major approaches to unleash some of the great partnership or collaborative models in driving research and innovation, including, for example, South-South and triangular cooperation. We also have another respondent, David, in particular, and actually an HESI AI Action Group implementation leader, who presented a very interesting AI for SDGs tool that, as much as it has the function of evaluation, it more encourages the exploration on how AI can technically, practically, and through teaching, research, and policy all together to be applied to impact and integrity. And also, when it comes to the space of research and innovation, it's very important to mention publication and to get the knowledge disseminated across the different stakeholders that would really benefit from the how-to guide in understanding not just the high-level purposes of different policies on research and innovation, but the concrete next steps in connection with academia and at the same time in collaboration with other stakeholders. So that's it from us.
Thanks so much, Lily. That's excellent to hear. And now, please, Darian, from the Partnering Initiative on the last session on partnership and engagement. Over to you, Darian.
Thank you so much, Ula. We had a great discussion, could have gone on for so much longer, but what we saw was the call for universities to become action tanks, actively contributing to sustainable development through research, education, and community engagement, not just theoretical learning. And this is all about, if we're going to have more partnerships, then you need to sort your organization, fix your organization to be fit for partnering. And we heard the great example of Okayama University integrating an all-of organizational approach to sustainability, getting themselves in the right place, and then reaching out, trying to connect at transdisciplinary research and outreach to drive collaboration. The second element was around the key partnering skills or change maker skills as being absolutely crucial, that students and faculty need to understand system thinking, power dynamics, how to build collaborative partnerships to drive meaning, sustainability transformations. And we saw great examples from Change the Chamber, as well as Green Mentors, with all sorts of resources to support that. And I should also mention the Partnership Accelerator resources that with UNDESA and the Partnering Initiative to be able to support effective collaboration. Then finally, we've looked a little bit about some of the barriers and what happens in a world where actually no one's got the time or financial resources to collaborate. And the suggestion that we start small and then be able to demonstrate impact. And then once, even if you've got limited resources, as soon as you start to demonstrate impact with modest efforts, you can gradually attract more and more support and engagement in governments and other stakeholders. But the biggest key was just do it. Just get on, pick up the phone, talk to people, try to build momentum, because people want to work this way. People like to work in collaboration, but it does need these change makers to start it. So just do it is the final message. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love it. Just do it. And that's what I'm going to do. Just go to the next session. But this is really, and apologies for being a little bit rushed on this breakout session, but this is really a starting point, and these are the areas that we would like to focus on initially through the partnership framework. So please stay in touch with HESI and look out for announcement of activities within these three areas. So now we're almost caught up in time. So we're only 3 minutes behind now. So that's good from the previous 15 minutes. So I'm glad about that. I do want to respect everyone's time to closing at 9:30. So I'll hand it over now to the next moderator, JC Carteron from the Sulitest. He's the president of Sulitest, the organization, and also one of the co-chairs, of course, of HESI. He will facilitate the next session on innovative higher education initiatives related to SDG 3, 5, 8, 14, and 17, with a particular focus on leaving no one behind. And of course, these are the SDGs that are under in-depth review at this year's HLPM. So over to you, JC. The floor is yours. And please close at 9:20. Thank you.
I will, Ola. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I won't repeat what the panelists and the previous speaker have explained, but actually, since when we launched HESI in 2012, we have seen so many great things all over the world, and lots of progress in higher education sector. And during the last session, I was happy to see some new initiative that I wasn't aware. However, and we have heard that from Francesc at the beginning also, despite all those amazing initiatives, we still have some challenges. And to be honest, we all know that at the global level, we are really, really, really far from achieving the SDGs. So in this specific session, we have invited exceptional speakers who will share their concrete experience, as Ola said, on specific SDGs. So we will ask them how they contribute to a specific SDG, but also how they add kind of systemic approach rather than a silo to maximize their impact. And most importantly, how they move from how can we move from experimentation, best practices to massification, to scaling up? So we all know that the time is not to reinvent the wheel, but really to scale up lots of great things which are already available. For that, we'll have 5 speakers. Jingwin from Hong Kong Baptist University, Maud from ESSEC Business School, Hannah Margarida from KAOST in Saudi Arabia, Julian from Manchester, and Sylvia from the Association of African Universities. So I'm going to just start right now with one of the first SDG, the SDG 3. So with Jingwin. So can you just tell us what are the major health challenges related to SDG 3 that Hong Kong Baptist University is addressing, and how your interdisciplinary approach contribute to providing significant solution and breaking down the barriers between the SDGs? Jingwei.
Thanks, JC, and hello, colleagues, and greetings from Hong Kong. JC, I think in some way it's great to start with SDG 3 because it's that one that we see a lot of research happening at higher education institutions over the world. At HKBU, we see health not just as the absence of illness, but really as the state of holistic well-being, be it physical, mental, social, and even cultural. This broader understanding, we believe, is essential to addressing some of the most pressing challenges under SDG 3, such as the growing burden of non-communicable diseases, mental health issues, aging populations, health inequities in rapidly changing society. So what's making us distinctive is, as you mentioned, the interdisciplinary approach. And what we see is the integration of diverse disciplines under a unified vision of health science. We bring together, for example, Chinese medicine, sports science, mental health, and digital innovation to provide solutions that are not only scientifically rigorous, but also culturally grounded and community responsive. For instance, our leadership in Chinese medicine research contributes evidence-based alternatives and complements to conventional healthcare. And our sports scientists promote exercise as a form of preventive medicine. And our mental health scholars and digital health innovators work across disciplines to design scalable interventions for population-level well-being. The interdisciplinary model enables us to break down barriers not only within health, but across the SDGs by addressing physical activities, mental resilience, digital inclusion, and traditional knowledge together. We're contributing to goals such as SDG 4, quality education, SDG 10, reduce inequalities, and SDG 11, sustainable cities. In short, our approach reflects the complexity of real-world health challenges and the belief that no single discipline, sector, or SDG can work in isolation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jingwing. I really like it. Let's move now on SDG 8, and I will invite Maud. So Maud, you are working for one of the most prestigious business school in France. And as a business school, one of your job is to keep business and organization running effectively. So how can values creation and SDG can live together? Maud.
Yeah. Thanks, Christophe, and hello everyone. Nice, very glad to be here. So at HESI, one of our areas of interest has been for a long time to study how organization can create social, environmental, and economic value simultaneously at the same time, because our conviction is that we don't have to choose between the 3 of these dimensions. And we started to have these studies thanks to social entrepreneurs that demonstrate every day that it's possible to have these 3 dimensions together. So now the question is, exactly as you mentioned in your introduction, how do we do if we want to scale and to meet SDGs? We know that we have to scale, and that's the next question. And to do so, we think that we have to etudiate the key success factors for scaling, and to help these for impact organization to keep on having some positive impact that is bigger and bigger. And for instance, at ESSEC, our first answer was to develop more than 20 years ago now specific tracks, so specific trainings for business school students to prepare them to manage these organizations that have this triple bottom line approach, I would say. Then we also wanted to really support some specific social entrepreneurs, so we created a social venture accelerator, which is open not only to our students and alumni, but to all social entrepreneurs. And we do so using the school's resources and expertise. And this accelerator creates value for the entrepreneurs, but it's also a great field of experience for our students and a field of research as well for our professors. And we have accompanied more than 300 companies in the last 15 years now. And finally, as we thought that we have to maybe rethink how we define performance, and we think this is a key issue, we created 8 years ago now what we call the Social Impact Assessment Lab. And this lab conducts action research projects as well as pre and post experience training. So we think that these are all ways to think about value creation from a different perspective, both for social entrepreneurs, but also more broadly to rethink how we measure performance.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maud. So after business, let's turn now to marine biodiversity with SDG 14. Ana Margarida, so you work at KAUST in Saudi Arabia. Can you tell us about what you do in the topic of SDG 14, please?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. So yes, from Saudi Arabia and to the shores of the Red Sea, KAUST is working in multiple areas of research that connects to the SDGs. This particular one is one key area, marine research, and supports SDG 14 across multiple fronts, from coral reef restoration, sustainable aquaculture, marine biodiversity, climate resilience, and ocean innovation. One of our main flagship efforts at KAUST is the Coral Restoration Initiative. It's the largest initiative for coral reef restoration in the world. And the goal is to restore 100 hectares of coral reefs in the Red Sea by 2025. We are ongoing already in this project, and this is a huge undertaking because it involves advanced coral propagation, ecological engineering, AI-driven tools, including digital twins of the reef systems and optimization and restoration. In parallel, just a few examples, another important aspect of our research and innovation is focus on advancing sustainable aquaculture to reduce pressure on wild fish stocks and improve food security in arid regions like Saudi Arabia. So instead of actually planting crops inland to feed to use as feedstock, we are now using aquaculture as a resource, algae farming. So our research and innovation teams are developing low footprint marine farming systems and locally sourced alternative feed, reducing dependence on imported crops like soy and corn that rely on a lot of water, also another important SDG, and which is critical in this particular parts of the globe. So, so both initiatives that I'm mentioning, among many others we are doing, are both designed to be scalable, science-based, and climate resilient, offering models for sustainable ocean solutions in the region and beyond Saudi Arabia and, of course, Middle East.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ana Margarida. For SDG 5, as I mentioned, we haven't asked a specific university to explain what they have implemented, but Sylvia will tell us more about what they have done within the Association of African Universities. So Sylvia, can you tell us a bit more about the massive project you are leading and the impact it has had on SDG 5? Sylvia.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. And I am coordinating the African Centers of Excellence for Development Impact Initiative. This is a regional higher education flagship program funded by the World Bank, and it's aiming at enhancing education, training, and applied research at postgraduate training level. And this program is implemented in about 20 countries in Africa, and we have competitively selected centers of excellence. These centers are about
Sylvia, we lost you.
So the centers are over 80 centers. And the key focus areas for this project is STEM, agri, health, energy, and mining. So it's more of a collective effort where the universities are working together to implement these centers of excellence. So in terms of the impact that we have made for the SDG 5, the project in its design had a deliberate, structured approach where the aim was to advance at least gender equality, particularly enhancing women participation in the programs that we identified: STEM, agri, health, energy, and mining. And at the design level, we looked at the women participation, which was very low according to our baseline. But then over the years, with deliberate efforts, we improved the women participation from 24% to 45% in most of the priority thematic areas that we've implemented. What have we done well to get to this percentage? Basically, we have worked with the centers to design institutional policies focusing on creating safe environment in campuses. If a student is coming in to study, and this is a mother to someone and also a wife to somebody, what environment can we provide? So the environment that we have provided through the infrastructure designs is to make sure that the women are given or allocated accommodation suitable to nurse their children and also have their family with them when they go to study, so that we can improve their participation. And in terms of policies, we advocated for policies, sexual harassment policies, gender sensitive related mentorship, where we've designed programs and capacity building around that. And we've also invested a lot in building females' capacity, leadership, that's really understanding the gender dimensions and how they can advance those specifics in their countries. Now, what we have done is also to identify and even create an award system for university leaders that are promoting gender, and we recognize them in very big gathering within the continent. And finally, in terms of the effort also made for buildings that the Centers of Excellence programs have developed, for the buildings that the Centers of Excellence programs that have designed, we've made sure that they are very gender sensitive, flexible, where you have lactating or nesting rooms in each of the classrooms that have been built around campus. So these are some of the design issues that we have incorporated in the African Centers of Excellence initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. To conclude this first round, we will focus on SDG 17. So Julian, can you tell us a bit more about what you are trying to achieve at University of Manchester? Julian.
Thanks, JC. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Julian Skirm, Executive Director for Social Responsibility at the University of Manchester. We're a university based in the world's first industrial city, and we're a global hub for football, of course, for music, science, and the creative arts. And we have a proud and rich history of social justice in our city. We're also, I think, known around the world for our commitment to social responsibility in higher education. And we're proud to be ranked currently the #1 in Europe and #2 in the whole world in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings for our performance towards the SDGs. And what I wanted to say quickly today was key to this, and that's SDG 17, of course, partnerships for the goals, because these are absolutely central. I think SDG 17 isn't just one of the goals. As we've seen today, it's the glue, right? It's the enabler that delivers all of the other goals. And we've had some fascinating discussions about this. And we know universities are actually uniquely placed, aren't they, to help solve the challenges of SDG 17, because we are these, what you might call global institutions. We're quite different, I think, to many other sectors of society. We're deeply rooted in our local communities, and we have global networks. So I think this gives us a special responsibility. We're trusted conveners. We can bridge gaps between policymakers, communities, businesses, and researchers. And these kinds of partnerships, to date, they have been a bit top-down, haven't they? And at worst, they have been extractive, and some of the points made earlier have mentioned this. So what are we doing about Manchester? Well, we've been looking to try and institutionalize partnerships that are based more on mutual trust, shared power, and public accountability, not just being one-off projects, but more lasting ways of working. So 3 quick examples. First, we have a civic panel. This is a paid, really important, a paid, facilitated group of citizens who are diverse in background and experience. And we meet with this civic panel regularly to help shape our civic priorities and, crucially, to hold us to account on what we do. That's the first thing. Secondly, we have a PPIE forum. We mentioned about SDG 3 earlier, good health and well-being. This is a patient and public involvement and engagement forum. Every year, this connects around 500 public contributors with more than 500 research studies that we have in the university. And this brings lived experience directly into the design and governance and impact of our health research. And my third example is our General Assembly. This is a statutory governance body in the university that we've transformed on the basis of some of the principles of SDG 17. So instead of being just a reporting forum, we've made this General Assembly much more dynamic. We've involved civic, faith, youth, environmental, political, and cultural voices into proper two-way dialogue. And I think each of these structures tackle a different piece of the SDG 17 puzzle. And I think they show how universities, especially ones like mine that have been around for a couple of centuries now, how can we role model what genuine, inclusive partnerships look like? And I think universities can act as anchors in their regions and brokers of these place-based partnerships, the kinds that cities and communities we can shape together to be more flexible than national governments. National governments are often tied up in geopolitics. It's a fact that now we're starting to see inclusive, locally rooted, globally connected partnerships. These can create more just systems, more accountable ones, more systemic. And I think if we get SDG 17 right, this is what it can achieve together. Thank you, JC.
Thank you so much, Julian. I'm fully aware of the time, and then Ola will shut us directly. So just one thing, we will put on the report probably the link to all those initiatives of all the panels for today, and maybe we can even give some resources there. Let's return to Hong Kong Baptist University, and I will ask each of the panel to really stay in 1 minute if we want to have the time for each of you. So Jingwin, can you just give us 1 or 2 ideas on how what you have implemented in HKBU can be replicated or adapted to other institutions or other places over the world?
Thanks for the question, JC. That's a very important question, actually, given the diverse group of audience we have here. I believe one of the most transferable aspects of our work is not just what we do, but how we do it, through an evidence-based and data-informed approach that connects disciplines under the broad umbrella of health science. I work myself as a data person for most of my career. So for me, data really serves as the common language. We mentioned language before, right? We know how challenging language can propose. It enables us, I think, to observe how different fields like Chinese medicine, mental health, sports science evolve over time through data. And where they intersect and where the new research frontier might emerge. This approach doesn't just break down academic silos. It helps us to using data to visualize health challenges in context and identify culturally relevant, scientifically grounded solutions. An example I would use is our global research landscape study titled Evolving Legacy, Decoding the Scientific Trajectory of Chinese Medicine. We'll share a link later, as JC said. We launched the report in June this year using bibliometric data. We traced the evolution of Chinese medicine research across decades, regions, and disciplines. This kind of lens is powerful. It offers a way to understand traditional knowledge systems in modern scientific terms and open doors for international collaboration and even innovation. Most importantly, the methodology is not limited to Chinese medicine. It can be adopted to other cultural knowledge systems, such as indigenous studies in the Pacific or Islamic health traditions in the Middle East, let's say. So helping institutions understand how their unique strengths can contribute to global health agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maud, so we really understand that you are working with social entrepreneur also, but how can this kind of alternative model like social entrepreneurship can inspire others and can be a tool to scale up?
Yes, sure. The thing is that, of course, scaling up social businesses is not enough to spread the world. So what we think is that we have to keep in mind this impact-oriented approach and then to apply that to our other activities. And to do so, we work on 3 axes. First of all, we work on changing ourselves as a business school. So it means that we have made a lot of changes in our training programs to ensure that we better integrate sustainability for all our students and participants. And then we also encourage research on sustainability topics. So we have ways to incentivize our professors. Then second, we propose solutions also for-profit organization to help them change their understanding of what performance means, as I was telling before. So we help them measure, manage their social and environmental impact. And then we think that it's important to foster collaborations between the different worlds. So to do so, we aim at fostering cooperation between social entrepreneurs that we would know well, and also larger organizations that we know on other parts of the school. So doing so, we also think that we can have some bigger impact.
Thank you.
Jean-Christophe, we cannot hear you.
Sorry.
Still not.
Yes. So a question for Ana Margarida. You present what you have done or what you are, some of the things that you are doing on SDG 14. Have you seen some unexpected positive impact on other SDGs? Again, 1 minute, please.
We'll keep it short. Yes, definitely. We're talking across this particular event about breaking silos. So definitely the idea is to have co-benefits between all the SDGs. I can name just a few very quickly. When I mentioned the Coral Restoration Initiative and SDG 14, particularly that we are addressing, clearly the amount of innovation and research we had to develop for this particular massive project, direct linked with SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So we developed a digital twin of the system. Is impressive work that our researchers had to do with amount of data. So AI-powered tool to map all the information of the Red Sea on that area, and also to support decision-making in terms of resilience and coral platforms for planning. In case of aquaculture, fish farming, and also algae production, clearly SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. So, and also zero hunger, so there's balances there for all the research that we do. Also in SDG 6 that I mentioned before, if we are not using unnecessarily water from land and we are actually actually focus on creating resources and marine environment in a sustainable way, we are saving water in a very critical part of the globe. I just want to finish the last one, and Julian was mentioned as it's SDG 17, and this is being key for cows. So partnering with the government, industry, and all the other universities and research institutes has been key. So without partnership, we cannot move forward and to create real world impact solutions. So very briefly, I hope I can get 1 minute.
Thanks. Sylvia, the project that you explain had obviously a massive impact, dozens of university and thousands of people. What lesson you have learned? And you have 30 seconds, no, 45, well, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. In terms of the lessons that we've learned, the first one is the incentive provision. We've learned that incentives are so powerful to motivate institutions to do the right thing. This can also be in terms of implementing the policy, as well as monitoring and collecting data that supports SDG 5. So within the incentive provision, things like scholarships that are higher value for women compared to the normal scholarships that we give, we've seen that attracting more females into the program. And then secondly, the issue of awareness and capacity building must go beyond policy. So that's something also we've learned, training the faculty, staff, students, so that they have essential mindset to create the inclusive environment. And in terms of scaling up, I would say that it's important to leverage the regional collaboration. We've worked with institutions like AWAD. This is an African institution in Kenya, which is promoting gender policies and gender inclusiveness in all we do. So working with such institutions has allowed us to harmonize some of the best practices across the African region. And finally, also investing in gender focal points to champion activities. Every year we are having awareness campaigns on 8th of March. So such campaigns we have actually seen working when we have local champions every year to mobilize the women and advocate the implementation of all the best practices and the policies around SDG 5.
Thank you so much, Julia. And Julian, just the last one. So you just explained that some partnerships are really big, and because you're working with local and then you're working at the international scale. What have you learned? And again, you have 1 minute for that.
Thanks, JC. Just a really simple local example then, because we're all kind of could be seen as globalists. I want to talk about an initiative. If I point over to my office, where I'm sat in my office, just 30-second walk from my office, we've done a project using the principles of SDG 17 partnerships, which has had a real impact on SDG 3, good health and well-being, and SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities. And this was a co-created research project to tackle air pollution. It's a very polluted area, Manchester, and it involved us partnering with the local climate action group, but also partnering with the local school, with transport authorities, our own students and researchers as well, but importantly, elected representatives. I'm not sure if anybody has voted for any of us on the call today. Probably not. So it's important we work with people who have democratic accountability as well. So we partnered with the local authorities. Now that's helped us understand how people traveled and commuted in this local neighborhood. We did amazing maps with our geographers. We looked at pollution hotspots. We had our chemists out there measuring air pollution. We had respiratory health medical people looking at the effect on asthma and lung development. So we looked at where pollution hotspots were, where exposure was highest on the routes that people took to school. And we helped then develop a green route that people could walk through the neighborhood that reduced dramatically their exposure to air pollution. But also unexpected benefits. We reduced issues of road safety as well. So I think it's a really good example, JC, of an initiative that began about SDG 17 but had multiple benefits. And I think these sharing these and having the training that we talked about earlier, as Patricia mentioned, I think that's really important for us to model these in universities and share and scale up these sorts of initiatives all around the world.
Thank you so much, Julian. And then I think we can give a round of applause for our panelists, and I leave the floor to Ola. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, JC, and thank you so much to the STEAM panel. Really appreciate it to be accommodated to our compressed time for this session, so they're much appreciated. So now it's my absolute pleasure to invite, we are reaching the close of our forum, so it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Naveed Hanif. He's the UN Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development in the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Thank you so much for joining, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ola, and greetings to everyone. And I also want to commend the moderator and the panelists for their excellent contributions, which I was able to benefit from. So, dear participants, as we conclude the 2025 Higher Education for Sustainability Initiative Global Forum, I wish to express my sincere appreciation to all of you for your insightful and inspiring contributions to today's discussions. This forum has reaffirmed the indispensable role of higher education in breaking barriers to sustainable development through science, inclusion, and equity. We need such initiatives. The recently released 2025 Sustainable Development Goals Progress Report offers a stark reminder of the urgency of our work. The clock is ticking. With only 5 years left, the world is on track to achieve just 20% of the SDG targets and 15% making moderate progress. These numbers represent missed opportunities for people and planet. Ladies and gentlemen, education remains a critical area for action. Education systems are underfunded. Learning outcomes are declining, which is very unfortunate. And 1 in 5 young people is not in employment, education, or training. And young women are more than twice as likely to be affected. Goal 4, quality education, is key to advancing sustainable development. Yet, progress is falling short. We know the solutions, we just need to act. Regional disparities persist. Teacher qualification challenges remain unresolved. And hundreds of millions are still illiterate, particularly women. The rise of digital societies calls for better integration of technology into education to ensure access to relevant, high-quality content for a changing labor market. Accelerating progress on Goal 4 can drive broader progress across the 2030 agenda. Education is a lever that we should use to accelerate progress. With sustained investment, inclusive policies, and targeted action, education systems can be strengthened, and higher education has a pivotal role to play, which all of you reinforced today in your interventions. Ladies and gentlemen, higher education can be a powerful driver of accelerated SDG progress, helping turn isolated gains into systemic transformation. And let me highlight how. By doing 3 things: generating timely, science-based insights to inform policy, innovation, and action on sustainable development challenges. Second, by cultivating the skills and mindsets needed for a sustainable and inclusive future. And thirdly, co-creating solutions and partnerships with communities, policymakers, industry leaders, and other societal actors to advance progress across all SDGs. Dear friends, today we heard from thoughtful young leaders and academics exploring new frontiers in science, technology, and innovation, along with inclusive pedagogy. We saw how artificial intelligence can be deployed responsibly to democratize learning and how universities are bridging research and policy in ways that are not only practical, but also powerful and timely. We heard compelling reflections on the persistent inequalities in access to education and research, the exclusion of traditional and indigenous knowledge systems, and the emerging challenges posed by digital and data divides. But it's so encouraging. We also witnessed determination, innovation, and leadership across regions and sectors, demonstrating how these challenges can be met with purpose, evidence-based solutions, and collaboration. The launch of the HESI Partnership Framework marks an important milestone in deepening engagement across the HESI community. It offers a collective platform to embed sustainability into teaching and learning, to promote inclusive and policy-relevant research and innovation, and above all, to build meaningful partnerships that connect academia with communities, governments, industry, and all sectors of society. Ladies and gentlemen, the HESI Partnership Framework invites all stakeholders to engage and to amplify the transformative role of higher education in advancing the 2030 agenda. UNDESA is honored to serve as co-chair of HESI alongside UN University, UNESCO International Institute for Higher Education, and the Solitest Association. I encourage all of you to remain engaged in the work of HESI. Let us continue learning from one another, collaborating across disciplines and borders. Above all, acting with urgency and purpose. That holds the key to accelerating the SDG implementation by 2030. A sustainable future will not be achieved by chance. It will be built by educated, empowered, and connected people like you. Thank you again for joining us today and for the opportunity to be with you at the closing session. Back to you, Ola.
Thank you so much, ASG Hanif, for those thoughtful remarks. Your statement and presence here today is much appreciated by the whole HESI community and by the participants, especially given the busy week ahead for you. So thank you so much for joining us. Colleagues, we have now reached the end of this year's HESI Global Forum. So it's just the only thing left to do for me is to thank everyone for the contribution, for your time to be part of us. And please keep an eye on the HESI website for new announcements and the rollout of various activities in line with the HESI Partnership Framework. Again, thank you so much and have a good day and a good week ahead. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Qué gusto.
Goodbye.